Everyone is talking about AI voice agents today, booking calls, answering customers, and doing small tasks. But almost nobody is talking about the real next step. Why aren't these agents actually improving on their own? Why aren't these agents learning from every conversation, getting smarter, faster, and clearer without a human updating anything? Well, today I'm going to show you how to build an AI voice agent that does learn. It listens, adapts, and updates its own brain automatically. In this video, I'll walk you step by step through building a real self-improving AI receptionist using Retell, Twilio, N10, Google Docs, and your scheduling tool. We'll start by mapping out how the whole system works, then we'll build each part one by one. The phone number, the calendar connection, the prompt, and the smart feedback loop that keeps the agent learning. By the end of this particular video, your agent won't just be answering calls, it will teach itself how to do a better job every single time. Let's start with the big picture, and I'll make this super simple. Your voice agent lives inside Retail, your phone number comes from Twilio, and if someone wants to book an appointment with you, your agent checks your calendar, whether it be on GHL, Calendly, cal.com, or maybe some other scheduling tool. And the tool that ties everything together like a glue, it's N10. But here's the best part. The agent's brain, the rules it follows, the tone, what it says, how it books things, lives inside a simple Google Doc. Because of that, the brain can change, it can grow, and it can improve. So, after every call or after every batch of calls, your agent looks at what happened and then rewrites itself. That's how we create a real self-improving system. The first step is setting up Retail. This is where your AI voice agent lives. Once you sign up for Retail, you will get like $10 free credit as well, which will be used by you to test out your brand new agents. So once you sign up on Retail, you will see this particular dashboard. What you have to do is go to create an agent and select voice agent. Over here, you will be selecting conversation flow agent and just hit create. Once you hit create, it will create your own AI voice agent, which will be a conversation flow agent, and it will just give you one node, which will be the welcome node. But before we get into the node section, let's check out what's happening over here in the global settings section. Now, this is the part where you can define your AI voice agent's attributes, like how it should sound, how it should act, and everything. So, the very first thing is global prompt. What you will have to do over here is you will just have to place a few things that are very important over here. So, the first one is system role and purpose. This basically tells the agent that what's its role and what is its purpose. Once you have placed that, then comes personality and tone guidelines. So it will just let the agent know whether it's cheerful, angry, sad, or some other kind of personality and tone. After that comes conversation management rules. This basically tells the agent what is the step-by-step process that it needs to follow with the caller. And then the mission of the call, like if it's an appointment setter call, then the mission is pretty obvious that you need to set an appointment. If it's a receptionist, then the mission, while still being getting an appointment schedule, the secondary mission would be, let's say, clearing any doubts the user has. And at the end, there is pronunciation guidelines. So if there are certain things that you need to provide guidance with to the agent about how to pronounce it, for example, it can be your company's name or anything else, then you can provide it over here. Then when you scroll down, you will also see there are certain settings called post call data extraction, and this is something that we'll be using later on, like at the end of the call, to actually improve our AI voice agent, like self improvement part. And you also can play around knowledge base where you will provide your company's entire knowledge base to this agent. So this agent knows your company in and out. So whenever a user is on the call and they ask any question to the agent, it can answer that question using the knowledge base that you have provided it with. Let's dive into the node section now. At the very start, we have got the welcome node where we can simply say, hi, this is, I would like to call this Emma. This is Emma. Would you like to schedule an appointment? And for the sake of this video, let's say that the user always says yes. So user says yes. And also we can rename the agent from here. So let's quickly rename this agent as Emma YT tutorial. And yeah, getting back to the node section, what we'll see is that with the welcome node, we have got hi, this is Emma. And yeah, you can select either prompt or a static sentence. Since I've selected static sentence over here, it will just say this exact thing, whatever is written over here. And once the user says yes, it will transition on to the second node. Now over here, what I will try to build is an agent that after the user has said yes that I want to schedule an appointment, the agent goes in and qualifies the user. And that particular qualification part is what we will try to implement in the self-improvement loop. So moving on, now we will have a function which we'll call over here. This function is basically the Google Doc that I mentioned earlier. So let's say custom function, and let's say brain of the agent. This function will be used to call in the prompt that the agent will use to qualify the user or the caller. And over here you need to put in the webhook URL that you will be given by anything. So for now, let's just place a demo URL over here. And yeah, that's basically it. That's all you need to do. And then just save it and add. So you have got the function also over here. Now what our agent is doing is it is asking the question that would you like to schedule an appointment, and when the user says yes, it is asking anything to give it the prompt that it needs to use while qualifying the user. So once it has extracted the prompt, we can just say that transition once the function execution is complete. Then it will transition to the next section, which is basically where the we'll qualify the user. So over here we'll use a conversation node, and let's name this node as qualification. Over here we'll be using prompt and not static sentence because we are extracting the prompt from Google Doc that this agent will use. So let's say that you have to qualify the user here, use the guidelines and qualification questions mentioned here. Then you will just paste in the variable of the document. So this variable can be defined in anything or even over here itself. Over here what you will have to do is go over here and you will go over here, edit the function, and over here you can get response variables as document. There we go. We have also defined the variable. So this document will be coming in from anything, just like I mentioned earlier. Now once the agent goes through the qualification process, the result will be either of two, whether the user qualifies or not. And we can put in the transition conditions accordingly. So if user is qualified, and we can do if user is unqualified. There we go. Now if the user is unqualified, it's pretty simple. What we'll do is have a conversation node and just a static sentence. It seems like we are not a good fit. Thanks for your interest. Have a good day. And we can just skip response over here, block any interruptions, and it will directly go to end call. So if the user is not qualified, then it will just tell them that yes, we are not a good fit, and it will just go ahead and end the call. Now if the user is qualified, then the next step would definitely be to get the date and time from user that they want to schedule the call on, and then send that request to our calendar. It can be through anytime, or a secret over here is if you're using cal.com, then you won't even have to go to anytime. You can simply use the cal.com integration that Retell provides you by default. And how you can get that? It's pretty simple. Again, just go to function and add a function, you will see cal.com, book on the calendar, and cal.com, check availability. So it's that simple over here. Now, if the user is qualified, then what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and in include another conversation prompt where we'll ask the date and time for meeting, and we'll just have a static sentence that says, all right, thanks for answering those questions. What would be the best time for you to hop on that call? And we'll just connect this node to this, and let's say that the user provides their suitable time. Once that is done, what we'll do is, just like I showed you earlier, we can have a function which will be directly a cal.com function, or we can have a custom function which will be calendar booking, and this function will be used to schedule calls. And again, we'll have just a dummy URL over here for now. Later on, I will show you that which URL you need to put over here. And webhook.com, there we go. Now over here, what we'll do is we'll select form, and we'll add a parameter. We'll add a parameter that says date. So this will be the date as mentioned by the user, and this is obviously required. And then we'll have time. This will be the time as mentioned by the user. Again, this is also required. We'll save this, and we'll have the function of calendar booking as well present over here. So once the calendar booking function is executed, what we'll do is there will be only two conditions: whether it will be appointment scheduled, or it will be slot unavailable. So these are the only two conditions over here. Now, if the slot is unavailable, then we'll have Aneten send back some available slots, which it will then present to the user. So how that will be done is, again, pretty simple. We'll just have present available slots, and we'll have static sentence where we'll just let the user know that the slot you requested is unavailable. These are some available slots instead. Then we'll just have another variable which again Aneten will be sending back to Retell, which is available underscore slots. Which one would be best for you? Then let's say that the user selects a slot. What will happen then is, again, we'll send it to calendar booking, and this time, since the slot is available, obviously the call will be scheduled. So once the call is scheduled, we'll just let the user know that yes, the call has been scheduled. Have a great day ahead. And that's it. Over here, we'll have static sentence and call confirmation, and we'll also switch this particular node to skip response and block interruptions. And yeah, once that's done, let's just end the call. So that's basically it, that what you have to do in Retell. Nothing more. You can obviously play around with the global settings over here, but that's the base of what you need to do in Retell to set up the AI voice agent. Now that your Retell AI agent is set up, let's go ahead and connect a phone number to this AI agent. For that, what you'll have to do is go back to home, and over here you will see phone numbers, and you can just click add and buy a new number. So either you can do this, or there is another way. What you can simply do is go and then connect your number via SIP trunking. Why this is used is basically if you have got a number on Twilio, then you can simply SIP trunk it directly over here. Now, why I suggest Twilio is basically because you can use the same number on multiple platforms. Whereas once you buy a number over here, you can just use that with Retell and not with any other platform. So, how do you get a number on Twilio? Well, first go to twilio.com and sign up with your email. Once you have signed up, you will see this particular dashboard. What you'll have to do is go to phone numbers and then buy a number. Once you go to buy a number, you will simply have multiple options to search for that particular number that you want. Maybe you want a number that is very specific to a particular region, then you can search for that as well. Now, once you have bought a number, what you will have to do is go over here and search for Elastic SIP trunking. So you will get Elastic SIP trunking dashboard, SIP trunks, all these things. And you can use this SIP trunk basically to connect Twilio number with your retail account. Now, to understand how to successfully SIP trunk your number from Twilio to Retell, what I'll do is I'll attach a link to that particular tutorial which guides you through all of this in depth in the description of this video. Booking is simple. Just like I told you earlier, if you are using cal.com, then you can directly integrate it using Retell. Let me show you how. First, you will go to function, and over here you can add a function and then book on the calendar. Once you click over here, you will see that it's asking you for the API key that you have on your cal.com and the event ID. So event ID is basically the calendar and API key is how it connects your retail account to cal.com. It's that simple. But if you're using another tool like GHL or Calendly, then that's where N10 steps in. Inside N10, what you'll do is you'll create a new workflow, and over there the trigger will be a webhook. Now this webhook will give you the URL that you need to put in the function that I showed you earlier. So basically, if you open this particular webhook and you see that there is a URL over here, you'll just copy it, and after copying it, you will just go to the calendar booking function, and in this API endpoint section, you will just paste it. It's that simple. So once you have done that, you will go ahead with the rest of the part. So over here, what's the first thing that you will do is, since I'm using GHL, I'll give you the example of GHL. Now GHL requires the date and time to be in a very specific manner. So what I'm doing over here is I've simply added a code node which converts the date and time that's coming from Retell into that particular structure that GHL wants. And once it is converted, it will just go ahead and see if the appointment can be scheduled or not. Now, if the appointment is scheduled successfully, it will just send the response back to Retell, letting the Retell agent know that yes, the appointment was successfully scheduled, and it will go ahead with a call confirmation path. But let's say that the slot is unavailable. What will happen then? If the slot is unavailable, it will go ahead and see if there are any available slots near that particular time that the user requested. And if there are certain slots, then it will just send that response back to our retail agent. And what our retail agent will do over here is it will simply present those available slots to the user. Then the user can select from those slots and it will go ahead and book the appointment. Now, in case of cal.com, what you'll do for just checking the availability, you will go to function, add and check calendar availability. Now over here, you can simply check whether this particular time is available or not. Now comes the smartest part of the video, the self-improving loop. This is where the magic actually happens. So what we'll do is we'll create two different workflows. The first one will be simply to fetch the prompt that we'll be providing to our retail agent to actually qualify the user. The second one is a particular workflow that basically takes all the improvement recommendations that we are getting from Retell and implement it on our document. Now, how do we get the improvement recommendations? Well, we'll have to go back to our Retell agent. And remember when I told you that we'll be using post call data extraction? Well, this is where we'll use it. We'll first go to post call data extraction. We'll add a new analysis data, and then we'll go to text. Over here, we'll simply write improvement recommendations, and you can prompt it as you want, but just for the sake of this video, I'll be prompting it on a very basic level. So give me some improvement recommendations which will allow this call to go smoother and achieve the goal of scheduling an appointment faster. Save. And that's it. Now, what our retail agent will do is every time a call concludes, it by default creates a post call analysis data. But now it will also include the improvement recommendations in that post call analysis data, which we can later on use to update our Google Doc, which is basically the prompt and the brain of the agent. Now, how do you send this post-call analysis data to Anytin? Well, it's pretty simple. You go back to Anytin, you see that this is the webhook that triggers our updating pipeline, updating workflow. So we'll just click on this webhook, we'll copy, and we'll go back over here, webhook settings, and we'll simply paste it over here. So now all the post-call analysis data will be sent to this particular webhook, and it will trigger the entire workflow. Now, what we are going to do is we'll simply get all the improvement recommendations from Retell, and then we have got an OpenAI model. Over here, what we'll do is we'll prompt the OpenAI agent with a very simple prompt, letting it know that this is what our document contains right now, and this is what improvement recommendations we have received. So, using these improvement recommendations, just update the document again. So what it will do is it will give us the updated document text, and that we can simply put it in update a document node. Now over here, a very simple thing that you need to remember is you'll go to tools, and over here we will select Google Docs tool. So what it will do is the updated Google Doc will always be available for OpenAI to go through and update it accordingly. Once we have added this particular tool, what we'll do is we'll go to update a document, and over here we'll just simply paste all the data that we are receiving from our OpenAI node. That's how we'll update our Google Doc, and which is basically the prompt and the brain of the agent. Now, over here, this is pretty simple. What we are doing over here is this webhook. Again, this is the function webhook. So let's copy this, and inside Retell, we need this function to be attached over here where we are fetching the brain of the agent. So we'll go over here and select it, and over here we'll just replace our sample webhook URL from this, update it and save. Now over here, what's happening is basically it will receive a request that yes, please fetch the prompt. Once it receives that request, it will go to Google Doc and search for that particular document, extract all the text, and then if you remember, we converted it to a document variable. So if we go back to our function, what we'll see is we want response variables as document. So over here, what I'm simply doing is I'm setting all the data that we are getting from the document, get a document node, and converting it into a single variable, which is document, and then we are sending that variable back to our Retell agent. So Retell agent can then use all the data present inside that document variable, which is basically the text from our Google Doc, and go ahead with the qualification process. Now the last thing is how to make your API bills as low as possible. So when you start, what you will want to do is you will want to iterate the agent on each execution. So after every call, the agent should update again and again, again and again. But after, let's say, 100 calls, what you can do is you can reduce that number to updating the agent prompt after every 10 calls. What that basically means is, let's say that after the 100 calls, the next 10 calls are sent in batch to our Anytin agent. It will see that what are the improvement recommendations across all 10, analyze all of them, summarize it, and then update the Google Doc. So in this manner, what you will do is instead of updating the agent on each and every call, you will start updating the agent in batches of 10 calls. And that's how you build a self-improving AI voice agent. One that grows on its own, fixes its own mistakes, and gets sharper with every interaction.